Matt George with us.
Okay, let's go.
Matt George, by the way, for those that are just listening, looks phenomenal today.
He did, man.
Like,
Sharp, man.
he looks fantastic. He's got all black on. He's at the ABC studios. He's ready to rock. I'm sure he's got a hell of a Locked On Kings podcast on the way. But we're always happy to have you on, my friend.
Already just dropped today, but wait till the show's over to go and listen to it. I had Iowa men's basketball head coach Fran McCaffrey back on to talk about Keegan and to talk about Chris Murray, Keegan's brother. So it's a good pod, so go and check it out. Fran is amazing.
Didn't we say that he looked like the guy on Winning Time?
Yes. Yeah.
The coach.
Yeah, we did.
That Whitehead or
Fran had himself a season. Fran wound up a meme a couple of times this year, or at least once this year he wound up a meme. Tell us about Chris, though. We were talking about Chris earlier. How likely is Chris Murray around the where the Kings are drafting, and do you think that's actually something they would do?
See, I think you're asking the wrong person with that, because I'm just now starting to. It's been wonderful not giving a damn about the NBA draft and draft lottery and anything until this point. Like, it's been phenomenal. But from what I understand about Chris is that he's at best a late lottery first rounder, more than likely just outside of the lottery. And I believe the Sacramento Kings are going to be in what is like the 21, 22, 23 range, around that. So I think the belief is that Chris Murray is going to be off the board. But if you go and listen to my podcast at the very end, Fran is talking about Chris. And what I really like is he goes into the details as to why Chris stayed one extra year in Iowa. He talks about how the Murray twins, they've done everything together. They're best friends. They've played ball together. And Keegan is the highest draft pick out of Iowa in their history. They've had a lot of good draft picks as recent as like Luka Garza, but Keegan is the highest they've gone at 4. He said Chris could have been, Fran McCaffrey said that Chris could have been an absolute lock for a two-way contract this past year. He would have gone in the second round and been a two-way contract. And he said most guys in college take that because it's opportunity, it's money right there, and they can go play professionally and try and work their way onto a roster. But he said that Chris wanted to separate himself from Keegan in the sense that he wanted to go back, he wanted to do it right, he bet on himself and said, I was going to be a first-round pick. And then he comes in and is now projected to be just like I said, right outside the lottery or late lottery first rounder. So good for him. That's the resiliency of like that Murray family, obviously the history with Iowa. So I would love for Chris Murray to come to Sacramento. I actually asked Keegan about it in the exit interviews. And Keegan said that he would love to have Chris here. He said he's going to be working with Chris through the whole draft process, which is pretty cool. The only issue that I would have, and this is an issue for Kings PA announcer Scott Moak, is if Keegan gets the Keegan Murray call and response because he's got 2 syllables in his first name and Chris doesn't, that ain't right. So we got to find a way to add another syllable into Chris's first name or something like that, because can't one Murray brother get the call and response and the other one doesn't get it. So Scott Moak would have to work on that.
Christopher Murray.
Yeah. Oh, he's just got to have his own. He got to have his own thing. Chris got to have his own.
Chris thing. Murray.
Scott's a pro. He'll figure it out.
We'll work on it.
He'll figure it out.
But part of me though, Matt, and I think they would love playing with each other. They best friends, brothers, all this other stuff. Part of me, I think there is a part of them as well that would like to be their own person.
Absolutely.
I think that's, you mentioned, it's one of the reasons why Chris stayed. He wanted to distinguish himself away from just being Keegan's twin brother. And I think in the NBA, I think they might want it the same way. Like, no, I'm Chris Murray. He's Keegan Murray. I play here. He plays here. It'd be great. I mean, he's a great ball player. And like I said, they love each other as brothers. So if they ended up on the same team, it would be all good. But I do think there's a part of them that wants to establish their own identity separate of each other.
Well, as a only child, I'm perfectly capable of speaking on this. I know very, very well about sibling rivalries and sibling matchups. I kind of got that sense too, Kenny. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I thought about, like, the Kings could absolutely use Chris Murray, another wing who is versatile, who can space the floor, who can put the ball or can create his own shot if he wants to, who rebounds, he's not as good as Keegan, hence the draft positioning and things of that nature, but he can come in and he could absolutely play a role in Sacramento and I think be effective for the Sacramento Kings. So there's a reason to want the Chris Murray archetype type player here in Sacramento. And this is, again, from the basic knowledge I have of talking to Coach McCaffrey about him, watching very, very little of Iowa basketball this year and going off of that. So I'm by no means an expert. I think for what Chris Murray is supposed to be in the NBA, if his game translates to the NBA, the Sacramento Kings could absolutely use that. But I agree with you. Like, I would imagine, as close as they are, I remember when Keegan had his introductory press conference, I think it might have been James who asked Keegan about like his brother and his relationship. Are you going to miss your brother because they like shared a car and everything like that? And Keegan goes, "Nah, I ain't gonna miss him." And then I when I asked Keegan at the press conference, the way I posed the question was, "Would you rather have Keegan in Sacramento or in the Eastern Conference?" And Keegan said, "No, he wouldn't mind having Chris in Sacramento." So I think it'd be really cool to have the Murray twins. The only thing that the NBA has to get right is actually use the right dude's picture this time on draft night. So make sure you're actually, they should reverse it. They got to get it right and use Keegan's picture, but make sure it's a Sacramento Kings picture of Keegan Murray when Chris is drafted to whatever team he's drafted to. NBA's got to fix that a little bit and make up for that.
Keegan Bradley.
Yes, indeed. We haven't talked since the series has ended, since the Kings season has ended. Have you given yourself time at all to think about free agents, improving this team, targets, like stuff like that?
I haven't dove deep. I already saw like Will Z, because he's a workhorse, already has like his list of free agents out there. So good on you, Will. You're a better man than I. But I haven't gone deep into the specifics. But like I've made sure to, while we're still celebrating the year for what it was, like I'm making it at least perfectly clear in my own mind or to myself, like the ride is over. Like the vibes were great. The beam was awesome. The ride is over though. Now you got expectations. Now there's work to do. And work doesn't have to start necessarily today. Like Monty McNair has been talking about, Mike Brown's been talking about, like we separate ourselves, we take a step back for a week, enjoy our families, enjoy everything that was. Then maybe next week we start to get to work. That was what Monty was talking about. So, I mean, every single thing that the Kings do or don't do this offseason has to be broken down and looked under a microscope of, does it make the Sacramento Kings better? Specifically, does it help this team go from good to great? That's that small gap that Mike Brown says is harder to get to get in between than it is to go from bad to good, like the Kings did this past season. So everything the Sacramento Kings do you bring back Harrison Barnes? Does that make you great? Do you let Harrison Barnes walk? If so, you have to replace him with someone that's just as good, if not better than him. Does that make you great? Who are you drafting, or are you trading the pick? Does that help make you great? Like there's expectations with everything the Sacramento Kings do now. And I think a lot of Monty didn't necessarily show his hand, but in his post-game press conference, I think he revealed a little bit of what his mindset is. I should say post-season press conference. He basically said, like, a lot of this is the guys that are here, the core 5 or 6 guys that are here, are expected to continue to get better. Like De'Aaron, another step. Domas, fix what you struggle with. Keegan, get better. Malik, get better. Kevin, get better. Like the young core of this group, the expectation is still to get better. I don't think there's going to be a superstar walking through that door. I don't think there's going to be like a Jimmy Butler or Bradley Beal or a superstar all of a sudden coming available walking through that door. It would be great if it happened. That could change this organization overnight, but that's probably not going to happen. No matter what the Sacramento Kings do this offseason, I think it's going to complement this core that's already here, and this core is what needs to get better. So that's going to be what I'm paying a lot of attention to, especially when we get to training camp time this fall.
Do you let me just ask you the question, do you think they need upgrades at the small forward position?
If they want, I'm just going to go with what I'm thinking. If they want to go deeper into the playoffs, yes. And I love Harrison. And I've been consistent over the last 3 freaking years with, you do not move on from Harrison Barnes. He's extremely difficult to replace. And I still feel that way to some extent. And I hear Harrison speak, and I know how respected he is. I know the difference that he's made in so many players' lives and careers. So Harrison is extremely important to what the Sacramento Kings do. But the reality is game 7, 4 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists. Like, that's not enough from your starting small forward. And I'm not blaming Harrison for the Kings losing game 7. There's a lot of guys that didn't play up to the level of that they're capable of, and it's going to be on them to, again, continue to develop and continue to grow. If the Kings bring back Harrison Barnes, what they absolutely know that they have is a consistent starting and, most importantly, available small forward every single night. And that's extremely valuable in itself.
Right.
But if this team wants to get to competing for championships, yes, I do think they need to upgrade that starting lineup to some capacity. And it's either going to be the 3 or the 4, depending upon where you feel comfortable putting Murray, or the 2. And even with Kevin Huerter's bad playoff series, I don't think you're overreacting about the 2. If you do, then maybe you're comfortable going small with Malik and Huerter coming off the bench if you can get a starting caliber 2 guard. These are all questions that Monty has to ask, but it seems like the most obvious upgrade to your starting lineup is Harrison.
That's hurtful.
It does. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I know everyone loves Harrison, but it's also the position everyone kind of points to.
It's also like the hardest position to fill. Like, every team wants
exactly.
wins.
Yep.
So good luck.
And that's why, like, and I'm kind of with what you said. Like, you've got to be sure you can upgrade it. Like, you've got to be sure, or at least it's got to be at least comparable. And I'm so curious to know what types of conversations the Kings have had with Harrison and his agents, because I'm sure there's if nothing else, a game plan set for how they're going to approach this moving forward. But yeah, that's the position everyone points to. Trey Lyles was another guy who was really vocal about being back here. Is Trey Lyles a guy that you think is back in the Kings uniform next year?
Trey Lyles said it's his number one priority to return, and if I'm Monty McNair, it's towards the top of my priorities to bring him back. Like, I don't know, when you're asking for reliability from someone who's a rotational player who understands and accepts his role, can rebound for you, can go small when you want to go small and play the small ball 5, can space the floor and knock down the 3. Trey Lyles does everything you could possibly want out of a rotation big or rotation forward, like for within realistic expectations. So yeah, I think the fact that Trey Lyles says he wants to be back, maybe not the greatest of negotiation tactics on his part, because maybe he'll get less money now because Sacramento knows he wants to come back. I don't think he cares. I think he's bounced around to like 5 different stops or something like that. I think Sacramento is his home. He's found his home here. He's found his connections, and it wasn't sad, but it was one of the things he brought up was how much it meant to him that De'Aaron Fox invited him to dinner, and they went out to dinner like together as not teammates, but as friends, as people. And like, that meant the world to him. So I think he genuinely loved what happened here, and he recognizes this is the best opportunity. Plus, he's carved himself out a great role. And I naturally bring up in this conversation Sasha Vezenkov, because I've had people say, well, you got to choose between one or the other, or you bring Sasha Vezenkov over, you don't need Trey Lyles. I push back on that so incredibly strongly, because Trey Lyles is a known NBA commodity. Sasha Vezenkov has sexy highlight reels and is playing European basketball, and I agree with you, Kenny. I saw your Twitter post. Those crowds are nuts. They look awesome. and Sasha's been having a great time and been doing some great work, and I can easily see why it would be appealing for the Sacramento Kings to bring him over. I don't know what he is in the NBA. I know exactly what Trey Lyles is. And what Trey Lyles is extremely helpful and a perfect fit here in Sacramento. So you're damn right, I'm bringing back Trey Lyles. And if you bring Sasha over anyway, let him fight it out, and may the best man earn that spot. Or both of them might earn that spot, depending upon how Mike Brown wants to play.
Yeah, I would look to bring them both and have them on, well, not bringing Trey Lyles, but have them both on the roster and go about it that way. But you talk about who's coming back and all this other stuff. I'm going to steal from our people over at CBS 13 just a little bit, and I'm going to ask you, Matt. I'm going to ask you a couple of people, and you tell me if you think today, things can change, if they're leaving or staying. We'll start with the 2 that you already talked about. Matt Barnes, Matt Barnes.
I hope he's staying.
He's probably still on the broadcast. I would think so.
Harrison Barnes, staying or leaving?
Leaving, reluctantly.
Trey Lyles, staying or leaving?
Staying 100%.
Terence Davis, staying or leaving?
Leaving.
Well, okay, let me ask you one about Terrence. What would your preference be with Terrence? Like if it was general manager, executive of the year, Matt George, what would your preference be with Terrence?
Don't ask me to put a dollar sign on it or like an amount because I have no idea what
No, I
market
won't.
value is. But if I can get Terence Davis for a good price, why wouldn't you? Like, why wouldn't you keep him around?
See,
He
I
works
think you
hard.
can. I think you can.
Yeah,
I think
I would absolutely negotiate with him and look if I need to free up a few $1,000,000 to go and get a bigger splash move, like I could see them not putting a cap hold on him, or I could see them definitely putting a cap hold on him to keep him around. I have no problem with Terence Davis sticking around. I think he's going to seek more opportunity elsewhere because one of the things Terence said in his end of season press conference, even though he was giving a lot of praise to Mike and praise to the team and praise to his growth, he made sure to point out this is the fewest minutes he's played in his career this season. So I think he wants playing time, and I don't know if he's going to get it here.
Yep.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Understandable. Chimezie Metu.
I think he's gone.
I got to be honest. I thought Matt froze. You are so still.
No, I
thought of Chimezie Metu. I was like, oh, the first ever Matt George freeze.
Full transparency. I'm reading the chatty house. I guess I misunderstood Kenny's picture of the European crowds because
No, you definitely did.
Now I'm
Yeah,
going to look a little bit closer at it because if it's something bad, then this is not good for
I
me.
was gonna let it go.
I was gonna let it go.
Oh, I just saw he was talking about the European crowd like it was crazy and it was cool.
Oh, it's crazy.
He said, "Oh yeah, it looked awesome."
On second thought, I don't want to be in Europe. I'll stay here. I saw another picture of a European crowd that was pretty sick. They were lighting flares and doors and stuff like that. Like that was kind of cool.
Once
That
again,
didn't sound cool.
to be very fair to those people, they were flags. They were celebrating it. There's nothing nefarious going on. It was just a bad visual.
They were white flags.
Well, it's been a good career. That was fun.
It just looked really weird. And Matt loved it. So there you have it.
Well, okay, hold on.
So you say Metu's gone. I'll ask you one more because I think we both think Delly is either gone or a coach.
Yeah.
Alex Len.
Gone. I think he's gone.
So the interesting thing, real quick, Damien, is it's a lot of turnover.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. Yeah,
that's a lot of people that are going to be different in that locker room.
Yeah.
Well, you got two restricted free agents too in Keon Ellis and Nemi that you have to make decisions about too. And Nemi's spent 2 years in your two-way. Did he develop into someone you're confident and comfortable enough saying, hey, you're our third string center. Welcome to the main roster. And then Keon has been putting in great development. I hope to see Keon back at the very least with another two-way contract because I think Keon in a lot of ways is what the Sacramento Kings need if he could become a solid rotational piece. So I wouldn't mind seeing both of those guys back, but there's questions about them, and those are potentially two replacements that you have right there available for you if you're Monty. But he's going to be looking for upgrades as well.
You don't think Neemias is the guy?
I don't think Neemias is the guy to get consistent playing time by now, or I think he would have already with the size and the rim protection and the rebounding that this Sacramento Kings team allegedly needed. Now, I don't think Nemi had any shot. Well, he couldn't because he was a two-way contract. But even if he had a full roster spot, I don't think he would have even come close to touching the floor in the playoffs against the Warriors. So Alex Len at least got out there, and I like Alex Len a lot. But Nemi has, he killed it in the G League, and Nemi has the size and in theory, the skill set that the Sacramento Kings are kind of looking for with their lack of presence in the paint and lack of rim protection. So if you need a guy, you already have one that you're very familiar with that's right there waiting for you, and he's restricted.
So the other person we didn't bring up, I just forgot, but Richaun Holmes. Do you think they, by any means necessary, get him on a different roster, or do they possibly bring him back?
All indications that I have point to Richaun Holmes has no market value. And that was also last offseason. And 1 year less on your contract can be a big deal for teams, paying a guy one year less. I think the Kings are going to continue to shop him. And I think a smart team, again, I understand the money and he's overpaid a little bit, especially with what happened this year. Richaun has something to give. He's got something to give somebody. He didn't just forget how to play basketball. He's not washed because he wears glasses now because he got hit in the eye 97 times. Like he's still a very good basketball player. So I hate to see him. I don't mean wasting away because he's had an incredibly positive attitude. He's stayed supporting his teammates. Mike made sure to shout out the guys that don't play specifically. He didn't say it by name, but he just talked about the group of guys that didn't play consistently still were so impactful and helpful with what they brought to practices and the work that they put in there and challenging the other guys. So I think Rashawn still has a lot to give. I'm a huge fan of Rashawn. I think Rashawn's future is outside of Sacramento, and I think everybody knows it. But you have to find someone to take that deal. And last I checked from the last conversations that I had, Rashawn had no market value, and he didn't have the opportunity to really do anything this year to help improve that market value.
What's the next step for this franchise? Like when we get into next season and the free agency moves have been done, the drafts have been made, the training camp has been had. What do you expect to see from this team next year?
I expect this team to make it out of the first round, bare minimum. Like I don't care about seeding that much. I don't care about win total that much. But Monty also made it clear that he said consistently teams that are in the tier of where the Kings want to be, perennial playoff and championship contenders, typically are 50 win plus teams, 50 plus win teams. The Kings were at 48. So whether 48 next year is a 6th seed, this year 48 was a 3rd seed, who knows? It changes every year. Like, and 1 or 2 wins can be the difference of a bunch of spots like we saw this year. It all depends on how the rest of the Western Conference is. I don't really care. The regular season absolutely does matter. And what I want to see out of the regular season is a team that's obviously gotten better, a team that you can tell is gearing up for the playoffs. And I specifically want to see less of the mistakes at home of, oh, hey, Washington's in, loss. Oh, hey, Charlotte's in, loss. Oh, hey, these teams that we should be beating, we fell asleep a little bit. Like I want to see a more mature team in that sense. And then when the playoffs roll around, they look like they're really, truly hitting their stride and they're ready to go. It's not massive growth during the regular season. They don't have to make a massive jump. It's little things. But when you get into the playoffs, regardless of who you're playing, I don't care if it's the defending champion Warriors, I don't care if it's the Lakers, I don't care if it's the best team you could assemble, make it out of the first round. Like that to me is my expectation. That is the goal that I think the Sacramento Kings are setting for themselves. That's the standard that I'm going to hold them to. Mike has this team believing that they should be championship contenders as early as now. So that's how I'm going to choose to look at this team.
You make great points with that, and I understand everything you're saying, Matt. I said earlier, I think the most important thing for this team next year is to make the playoffs. And it's not the same as like this year, like break the streak or anything, but establish yourself as a perennial playoff team. And I don't want to say it doesn't matter if they lose in the first round, but say, other teams, step their game up all throughout the regular season, and the Kings play Phoenix in the first round in a 3-6 matchup, and the Kings are 6, Phoenix is 3. They lose a game 7 in Phoenix to lose in the first round. I don't look at that as like, man, they didn't grow, or they didn't. This was a missed opportunity this year because they did the same thing they did last year. I think it's imperative that, like my partner says, don't be Minnesota. Make the playoffs. Make the playoffs again. Set your franchise up for what you want in the larger scheme. And I think that is a certain level of success for this team, even if they don't necessarily advance in the playoffs.
Yeah, context is important. Like it's hard to believe that the Sacramento Kings are going to be as healthy next year as they were this year. And that's with Domas playing through a broken thumb and Fox breaking his finger in the playoffs and things that Keegan dealt with. Like the Kings were labeled a lucky health team, and still they had all these injuries that they dealt with, and that was used to undermine them all season long, which is, I thought, ridiculous. But regardless, like if the Kings win 48 games again, or first round exited again, and they do it with missing a top guy or an important starter for a third of the season or half the season, okay, that's important context to have. That's not, you can't just classify that as a failure. Yeah. However, like if the Sacramento Kings are first round exits again, let's say your scenario, Kenny, they lose to the Phoenix Suns in 7 games, but they were the road team this year or this time, and or they didn't have home court advantage this time, but Domantas Sabonis struggled again. Well, now you have major questions like, okay, we're going into an offseason where we believe we're re-signing Sabonis. You don't want to let Sabonis walk because you traded Tyrese Halliburton for him. But now you have back-to-back playoff series where you eliminated because the Robin to your Batman of De'Aaron Fox wasn't good enough. Where do you go from there? Like, and again, we're projecting literally a calendar year from now. So a lot of things can happen. And again, the belief is that this core, Malik, Keegan, all of them are going to get better. And I've stood pretty strong with the belief that the Sacramento Kings already have their big three here. Keegan is 3. He's going to get better. Like, and he's going to be able to do more. And then they have supplementary and hell, Keegan was a top 3 player for the Sacramento Kings in these playoffs. Maybe not. Malik probably. Actually, yes, I would say it was Fox, Malik, and Keegan. And that's probably not how it's going to be going forward. But I think Keegan is the third part of this big three. I don't think this roster is a massive piece away from being where they want to be. I don't know about championship winners, but I don't think they're that far away. But it requires other guys to continue to develop and get better. And Sabonis is, of course, one of those guys too. So context is extremely important. But I agree with your scenario, Kenny.
Well, why do you think? So you're clearly not high on the play of Domas in this series, understandably so. Do you think it was really bad?
I wouldn't say really bad. He got completely outplayed by a role-playing center. Like, and I think maybe that's a little bit disrespectful to Kevon Looney, which I've already been flamed.
But did he?
Right.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. I mean, he was completely, I think in a lot of ways, like we're talking about the guy who entered the playoffs as the rebound champion. Before game 5, I think he was honored with the rebound champion award or whatever for the regular season.
I never knew that was a thing before that day.
I didn't either, but he got it.
Of course, we've never had a rebound champion here. So hey, that's awesome.
And then he proceeded to get his ass kicked on the boards by Kevon Looney. And again, there's not just on Domas. Like, I think I heard you guys talk about this earlier. Like, the Kings as a team have to do a better job helping Domas out. But Domas did not do a good job keeping Kevon Looney out of the paint.
Kevon Looney had 23 rebounds 2 days ago.
Yeah, against AD. You're 100, and he's a much better center than I gave him credit for. But Domas is supposed to be on a different tier. Domas is supposed to be on the different level as someone who is the Robin to Fox's Batman, or part of a big 2 of a eventual championship team. Domas has to play better, period, than he did in this series. I also think the Golden State Warriors did a really good job taking a lot of his game away, but Domas was not good. He had moments, he had decent plays, he had decent stat lines, but everybody watching that series would not look at Domantas Sabonis and say, hey, that was good. And he knows it too, and he's going to put in the work, and I expect him to be much better.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say about that, Matt, is, your expectations matter to a certain degree, right? And we expected Domas to at least be what he was in a regular season or elevate, right? And he had a whole bunch of things on his plate he had to do. He had to be the best rebounder, one of the best scorers. He had to be one of the best facilitators. They had to do all this. Looney had one job, maybe 2. Like, it wasn't even like shut down Sabonis. It was just like, put your hands up and don't foul. But his job was to rebound. And he did that exceptionally well. But like, when I say your expectations and your role matter sometimes, what if the Kings told Sabonis, don't worry, you can score 4 points a game. We just need you to go get every rebound. He might average 20 rebounds a game too.
But you're also wasting the skills of Domantas Sabonis in that case. Sabonis is more of a 3-level center than Kevon Looney is. Kevon has one elite skill. Domantas Sabonis is a facilitator, a passer, and the foundation of what the Sacramento Kings do offensively, and he was completely taken out of the series.
Right, but my point is, Looney did his one thing really well.
Sure.
But if you ask Looney to do more, there's no way he could even put up the stats that Sabonis put in this series.
Sure.
So to just say that, it's not you, but to say that Sabonis was terrible or got thoroughly outplayed by Looney, in one aspect, yeah, he did. But I mean,
it was just a really big aspect. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it was a big aspect.
Stands out to me.
It was a big aspect.
Well, I also thought Kevon Looney did a good job defending Domantas Sabonis in the paint. I think the Golden State Warriors had a great game plan, which was you come into the paint, we're slapping at the ball, and it was for De'Aaron Fox too, especially after he hurt his finger. Like the Warriors weren't going to give the Kings any space in that paint. Said beat us from 3-point range, and the Kings unfortunately couldn't because they had a woeful shooting series. The one thing where I'll agree with you is a lot of people are commenting, "Oh, Domantas Sabonis' assists were down. His assists were down." If the Sacramento Kings shoot how they normally shoot, Sabonis' assists aren't down. So a lot of that, I mean, half of an assist requires your teammate to make the shot.
A far bigger issue was his shooting percentage was way down.
That was the worst part
and
of the series.
That's a credit to Kevon Looney and the Golden State Warriors.
Absolutely.
It was down a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it was a very simple way of making Domantas Sabonis uncomfortable, which was backing so far away from him for an elbow jumper that he was still hesitant to take that elbow jumper. And that was the first thing Domas pointed out when he was asked, what is he going to work on? He's like, I got to get more confident and better as a shooter. And Mike Brown gave him the full green light on that. Hey, shoot away. I can live with that. If you miss it 10 times, I don't care. It's a good wide open shot. That's what you want in the NBA. So Domas has to get to a point because every team watches. Every team's going to do the same thing to Domas until he proves that he can do it or hit that shot and do things differently.
Right.
And so he has to be able to hit that shot. It doesn't have to be a 3-point shot, but that elbow mid-range jumper, if they're going to stand in the paint and wait for you, knock that thing down.
I agree.
It just are you covering the Lakers Warriors series?
Reluctantly. We didn't go to game 1. We're not going to game 2. I think our only ABC game is game 3, so we're not going to LA. Maybe if it went to like 5 or 7. Well, we'll see. I don't know. To be determined.
Okay. All right. What do you think of the series?
I think people jumped the gun with, the Warriors are going to wipe the floor with the Lakers based off of how that start went. I think the Warriors should not be panicking at all based off of what happened in game 1. Like there are a lot of things that went right for the Lakers, a lot of things that went wrong for the Warriors, and they're more than capable of turning things around. So I would expect this thing to be
real quick. What went wrong for the Warriors?
I mean, the last shot by Jordan Poole, but that's an easy thing to point out. Even though Kevon Looney, I'm sorry,
they hit 21 threes.
Right? No, they had a great game offensively, but they also were carved up by AD, despite the fact that Domantas Sabonis, despite the fact that Kevon Looney still had another really good rebounding game, like AD clapped right back at him with 30 and 20 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, and I also think I think the Warriors played well enough overall, especially offensively, to win that game. They just kind of fell apart a little bit, especially towards the end, and the wheels kind of fell off, which is not what you expect to see from that group. So I think the Warriors are going to be fine. I think the series goes back to LA 1-1. I'm not predicting the Warriors to win or the Lakers to win. I'll be completely honest with you. Like, I could care less who wins. I just want an entertaining series, but watching this through the scope of what if it was the Kings playing the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yeah, not fun.
That's not fun because I'm picking apart everything and going, yeah, AD probably could have had and would have had 30 and 20 against the Kings. I have no idea, but the Kings would run that team ragged if the Warriors were slowing down play against. I'm not saying the Kings would win the series or sweep the Lakers or anything like that, but I watched the matchup against the Lakers compared to the matchup against the Warriors and go, man, if Domas and the Kings got a shot at this group, I think it would have looked really different. But who cares?
You got to stop watching games like that.
Right.
We all have to. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy basketball.
Well, I can't enjoy Warriors versus Lakers. I can't do that.
I can't enjoy it, but, I mean, look.
What's wrong with me? I enjoyed game 1.
Well, look, my alliances aren't torn. You can go ahead and play the clip. I don't care. Okay, Lake Show. They're not torn in this one.
That's a fun series. Fun series with 2 superstars. Apparently, there's a clip circulating, and I guarantee LeBron dropped this, or LeBron's. It's a clip of LeBron James talking about how Steph Curry is going to be a huge star, but it's real. Like it's LeBron, like back in the day, talking about like he was actually telling the truth on this one, and there's visual proof of it. I cannot wait to watch this clip. LeBron is going to be trending all night because of this clip, and I'm all for it. I am all for it.
Shout out, Bron.
Indeed.
Do work tonight, King.
Okay, all right, calm down. Sound like my mom. Any takeaways from Monty McNair's press conference yesterday? I know Monty is great at talking and saying nothing. But he, it was cool we watched his opening kind of statement, if you will, and running down the accolades of the Kings team this season. That was a long list. And hearing it all one after the other, in which he, of course, left out the fact at the end he won Executive of the Year. It was all pretty impressive.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway that I had is what I already shared with you, which is him kind of, not letting it slip, but mentioning like so much of this offseason is about his core getting better, his young guys getting better. And he talked about how young they were and how exciting that is. I think he's realistic about what the Kings are going to try to do and what's likely that they can do. And that's just add to and try and build upon, not change. And what I mean by that is, like, you bring Jimmy Butler in, that changes who the Sacramento Kings are for the better, but it changes who they are. Mm-hmm. So, I think he's not looking to change this team. He's just looking to build and tweak and add, and find the right complementary pieces that are going to make a difference in this regular season and are going to make the difference in the playoffs if their numbers are called. But the big playoff difference makers are going to be the guys that are already here, that we know are here. Other than that, like, any takeaways, like, he was asked about Domas and his contract situation. And I think the Kings would love to get a deal done with Domas, but I don't think it's going to happen, because I'm pretty sure Domas can make a lot more money if he just waits and tests free agency. And Domas is already on a pretty team friendly contract as it is. So chase your bag, Domas. And I think Monty's pretty well aware of that. And then he gushed about Keegan, and like, he should take victory lap after victory lap with Keegan. He should take victory lap after victory lap with Mike. He's not going to. But I mean, he's been so validated in so many things that he's done, from, of course, the Domas trade, which everybody mainly focuses on, but he was ridiculed for the Keegan Murray pick. He was. People forget he was ridiculed for that pick, and not as bad as he was ridiculed for the Domas pick, but a lot of people thought that Jaden Ivey was the pick, and that Monty should not have taken Keegan at 4, or he should have used his assets better to trade down in the draft and go get more help. Like, he was, and once again, why
are you bringing up old stuff?
Because I'm giving my guy his credit. I'm giving my guy his praise, because the moves that he's made, for the most part, he's made minor moves and things like that haven't really worked. And sometimes he's like the committing to Luke Walton and firing him after 16 games or whatever, things like that. He doesn't look great, but he's been knocking it out of the park with his drafts. He's been knocking it out of the park with moves that he's made recently. So he deserves to take victory laps, and he's not going to, but I wish he did. I wish he took the podium and said, "What do you think now?"
Well, Matt George, take your victory lap. Kings coverage continues all off season long over on Locked On Kings, and of course over at ABC.